Okay, good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? Is everybody okay? And what's everyone been up to? I tell you, Bitcoin's been doing some funny things today, hasn't it? Which we will discuss, we will talk about. Come on, guys. You know the first question I'm going to ask. How's it sound? Now I'm going to get a 50-50. People say it's too quiet, too loud, whatever. But are you not a week late with the love stuff? Well, I'm always in love with Bitcoin. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And we did our last call on the 13th. We didn't do it on Valentine's Day. So I didn't feel it was appropriate to talk about the love side of Bitcoin then. But we are going to talk about Bitcoin. We are going to talk about the love affair that is Bitcoin. We're also going to talk about marriage. Now, that seems a bit weird. We'll talk about that when we talk about cryptos. But I'm talking about being married to your bags. We're going to have a look at some stuff that potentially might sway you one way or the other. So yeah, I think this is a good week to talk about the love stuff, as you say. Plus, there's not much marble content coming out these days, so it's hard to make thumbnails, and that one seemed like an obvious one to go with. So yeah, that's what I went with. But anyway, let's just dive straight in. And the reason I say we're going to dive straight in when I can find the right button is I actually don't really have any news for you. And it's not that some news hasn't really taken place or anything like that, but there's nothing really caught my interest over the last 7 days. I thought, I'm going to report on that. Yeah, ETFs are still buying, Bitcoin's ranging, and everyone's asking what the hell's going to go on. So there's the news for you. But we can actually have a look at the price of some stuff. We can see the Bitcoin. I'm going to move my mouse so I can actually use it instead of my mobile. Blow this one up. When we actually get a bit closer, what's Bitcoin really done? Okay. I mean, this is like a spinning top, isn't it? We've got a high wick to the north, high wick to the south. We're kind of ranging in the middle. But we're still, forget the wicks, we're still sat in that range. You know, 51,000 to what? 52 and a bit thousand. That's what we've sat in for the last 6 or 7 days. And that's where we continue to sit at the moment. We'll have a look at what the wick might have done in clearing out liquidity and all of that kind of stuff a little bit later on. But right now, it's just sat up on its perch. It's not really doing too much. And I'll be honest with you, about 2 hours ago, I was going to start with a different narrative because we were looking a little bit different. Yes, we had gone north, but we had retested hard back to the south. But to be fair to Bitcoin and the rest of the market, we seem to have recovered that somewhat. So we'll have a look a little bit later on with where that's going. The dollar is sitting where it's sitting, around about 104. It's been doing that for a week now. We've had things like the Nasdaq has sort of breached main support. We've got some FOMC minute news coming out tomorrow, which, you know, everyone thought we were going to cut the Federal Reserve rate. Maybe we were going to get some announcement towards that, but then inflation came in, and that was a little hotter than expected. So maybe what we're going to see in these minutes, which remember is from a couple of weeks ago, is sort of the conversation around how they're going to look to lower the rate. So again, maybe a little fun and games tomorrow, but I'm not particularly expecting too much of a concern there. One of the tokens that has performed very well over the last 7 days is Ethereum. Ethereum continues to grow. What have I done? I've hit something and something's loading up. But anyway, never mind. We'll find out a little bit later on. Yep. So Ethereum has continued its very strong growth, and we are, you know, we just breached 3,000 today, but we have lost that again, and we're back down just underneath that. But given where things are going, given how BTC is stalling, we're going to have a look at Bitcoin dominance very soon. I don't expect us to be staying under that 3,000 level for much longer, if I'm honest. And I think this is leading the way on the altcoins. And I appreciate if you look to the right hand side of the screen, there's a lot of red there. Yeah, Bitcoin has definitely clawed back some gains. But in the days leading up to this, I can assure you, although Bitcoin was ranging, a lot of these altcoins, particularly in the AI sector, have been booming. Now, BitTensor, and again, we'll blow this bad boy up. I mean, you know, you don't have me to explain what that looks like there, but it does look like a lovely low test. However, actually, unlike a lot of other coins, BitTensor has actually been pulling back over the last few days. A much needed pullback, I would suggest. over the last 4 weeks, we have gone from $200 to nearly $700. So yeah, a bit of a pullback was expected. We saw a sharp drop off today. I kind of thought actually we might get down to this 540 level just at the bottom, because once I saw we had breached the top side, and we'll go into a bit more detail a little bit later on. But once I'd seen it had breached this bit here, I thought, oh, we'll probably retest back down here. But actually, if I manage to stabilize sort of pretty much in the middle of that, and it's bounced back up pretty hard. I mean, if we go back on, let me just clear this first. And if I go on the 15-minute for you, for what, the last 4, 8, 12, so the last 3 hours, it has been solid green gains. So yeah, since we hit that bottom, I got in about 590. I actually did buy some earlier today, 615. I sold it again. I thought we'd get a lower entry, got in at 590, just to try and get a little bit extra in the bags there. I explained in Discord, I bought, I mean, I don't mind saying, just under $6,000 worth today, and I'm going to solely do Tau CAS flip-flops. I'm going to 100% it each time. You know, I'm not a particularly big fan of CAS, but I know a lot of people in the group talk about it, and there does seem to be some sort of correlation or inverse correlation between the two at the moment. So I'm hoping that flipping between those two, I'm just going to be able to increase the amount of Tau I had. Obviously, I bought 590 and I was under 6,000. It was 5,900. I bought 10 Tau. So that's what we're going to be working with. It's totally separate to my other Tau pot. I may stake it under a different wallet address, but I'm kind of hoping that this movement's going to be pretty quick. But we can still see at the moment, still climbing up 640. And so, you know, not only have we recovered the losses that we had today, but we are getting back into that territory in which we were ranging in for the last couple of days after our climb up to 680. So we're kind of hitting that at the moment. May see a pullback. I wouldn't be surprised with 12, 13 green candles in a row that we do see a little bit of a pullback, maybe around to that 620, 610 level before we start to move it on up again. Let's get that M People song out, don't we? For those of you that are in your 40s, I'm sure you'll have heard of M People. Anyway, I'll leave that one there with my shit music taste, obviously. So yeah, I will have a look into price action on a lot of other tokens a little bit later on. But what I want to do is I don't know, that's for a little bit later. What I want to do is I want to jump into dominance. And that question on the thumbnail is, well, on the title of the YouTube page, you know, is now the right time to fall in love with Bitcoin again? And I'm going to be that guy that sits on the fence. I'm going to give you two answers, but I'm going to try and explain both sides of it. And you'll see, for those of you who are observant and thought 14 out of the 16 of you that have done it, thank you very much. There is a little bit of a poll. And the question is, what percentage of BTC do you currently hold? Now, that might seem like a weird question. I kind of feel like I know what the majority of the answer is going to be, given that the group's focused towards the likes of Casper and Tau and a lot of other AI projects like that. But ultimately, you know, we're in crypto and we talk about, we have that reverence about BTC, almost that sort of love affair, if you will, with BTC. You know, BTC is not only the greatest crypto that is out there, it's the savior of the world, really. You know, when the financial system totally crumbles, we're thinking, oh, well, we're going to sit nice and pretty in our BTC. But I mean, how many of you actually have BTC? For me, you know, if I'm being honest, out of a 4-year cycle, I probably owned BTC for about 1 year of it. And, you know, so although I love BTC, I obviously don't love it enough to stay in it. And the reason is simple, that there are better opportunities out there to make money. And again, what a weird thing to say, bearing in mind that we are here loving BTC. We don't care about fiat currencies because of all just a Ponzi of some sort. You know, it's BTC that's the purest form of transaction we can have. I'm not going to get into any debate about the likes of Casper and everything else. Just, you know, stick to the BTC's principle of things. But yeah, I would rather try and make more dollar out of trading altcoins, etc., than I would in just holding the underlying asset in BTC. And one of the reasons is this chart here. And I'm sure every single one of you on the call is aware of the Bitcoin dominance chart, but how often you actually look at it might be another question. So what you can see at the moment, the Bitcoin dominance chart, the yellow lines are the halvings, okay? So one in 2016, it's a weekly, so I haven't got the exact dates. In 2016, it was actually the 9th of July. It was the 11th of May in 2020, and we don't know when it's going to be in April of 24, but we're thinking anywhere from the 17th to the 22nd. So for all intensive purposes, that will do. The blue wavy line is the 50 EMA, and then the green and red bars, just as you would expect. Okay, so why am I talking about this now? Well, we've talked a couple of times about not just the 4-year cycle, but I think I've got it. If you just bear with me, I should have had it prepared. Let's bring it a bit closer. Talking about maybe the four yearly stages. I think I've shown you this chart before. 4-year cycle chart. There we go. Okay. So what I mean by that is, yes, there is a 4-year cycle in and around the halvings, but within those 4 years, we also have 4 separate stages in which we want to hold our funds within. So we've got bear market. We generally want to hold them in stables. That first year out of the bear market, where we're starting to see, a bit of disbelief that we're coming out of the bear market, but that's a year to be holding your BTC. So potentially what 2023 was. Then we get into that halving year, and then it's sort of sometime in that year you want to flip from BTC to altcoins, and then in the final year, it's very much a case of we're full bull. You want to be in alts to try and maximize your gains. And so year 1 starts with BTC, year 2 BTC to alts, year 3 is alts, year 4 bear market into stables. Okay, that's generally the thought process behind all of that. Oops, that's the wrong chart. Just close that one down. So we are in the halving year. So that halving year is be in BTC, but be ready to move over into altcoins. Now, we're close to the halving, and we don't know, when. It's very generic. It's 365 days, Harry. So come on, give us a little bit of a clue. When should we be flipping over from BTC into altcoins? And that is quite difficult to understand. But what we can see from beginning of 2023 is that rise in BTC dominance. So we started off at, not quite the beginning of December 22, at 40% roughly. And then over the past year, we have risen to 55. So 15% increase in BTC. Now, yes, I get it that some alts will have moved much better, but generally just holding BTC that past year would have served you very well. And what we can see in previous years, we go back to 2016, Bitcoin dominance, 97, 98%. Why is that? There weren't many altcoins out there. So obviously, it's going to have a strong dominance there. We go through the 2017 bull market, go into the bear market, and then we come towards the 2020 halving, and Bitcoin dominance rises again. And this time, we actually get up to around about 72%. But as we get in towards the halving, we're much closer to about 68%. Halving happens, we fall away, we go into Altseason, and away we go. Now, what we're doing at the moment is we're climbing up, and we got to 55%. Now, I remember middle of last year saying we're not going to breach 52, and obviously that didn't stand very well. And actually, at the moment, 52 is kind of acting as a little bit of our base and our range. But there is potential for us to run some more. However, what I would say, what we seem to be forming in at the moment, is some kind of box. Don't want to call it a rectangle yet, because that kind of has a connotation that it might burst to the upside. We've got sort of a topping pattern there, or top there. And we've got a base in and around here. Kind of, it takes in that little element from July of last year. We've got some wicks over here, a little bit over there as well. Definitely some action in around 2018. You can see I should have just done this with a horizontal line, shouldn't I? Let's do that a little bit better, shall we? Let's get rid of those squiggles. I don't need them. Get off my screen. Get out. Sorry, I got a bit of Tourette's today because I've not really spoken to anyone. So I'm just going to unwind to you guys instead. So you can kind of see we've got that forming here between 51 and about 54%. Now, last week, you'll know I sold my Bitcoin. And I sold my Bitcoin because I felt that there was an opportunity for a better play to move it into alt. So I'd held my Bitcoin from November 22 all the way through. I'd taken the benefit of that rise there. I'd seen it hit that 54 level, 5 times prior and react and come back down. It's hit it again. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to flip over into alts because although it may not be alt season, that 2%, 3% move from 54 down to 51 will have a very positive impact on altcoins. And so there's an opportunity here for me, if it makes it all the way back down, to have some form of play. And then if I choose to, move over back into BTC and, pocket the gains in BTC terms. And that's what we're doing, if you think about it, with CAS and TAL. It's not a percentage because our charts aren't set up that way, but ultimately it's the dominance between those two, and we're just trying to play off that. And so my very short-term answer is right now the time to fall in love with Bitcoin. I would argue if you're trying to increase your Bitcoin holdings without providing more fiat, I'd say no. Short-term, potentially not. We've had a very clear rejection at the top of this 54 level, and we're starting down. Now, these are weekly candles. I totally get it. Still 5 days left to go on this candle, but we have started to make that move down. And so it is likely, given past performance, that we may see this move down here. And it may only last a couple of weeks to get there. And when we saw, in the space of these 2 weeks, ETF weeks, it went from 51 to 54 and back down again in the space of 11 days. It was over 3 candles. So yeah, it can move quickly. But for me, short term, no, I don't think now actually is the right time. But then we're getting perilously close to this yellow line, the halving. We're going to talk, not just us, not just me on these calls, not just in RT, but everyone in crypto. It's going to be the new thing. We're going to be bored of talking about ETFs. We're going to be bored of looking at grayscale sales and bored of BlackRock purchases. And we're going to start talking about the halving. And it is getting close. It's 60 odd days away. It's less than 9 weeks. So, I think it is 9 weeks, 63 days, I think last I saw. So yeah, we are getting very close to this. And that halving is generally a sign, a shift in momentum of what's going to happen with BTC. And we can have a look at it. Now, the Bitcoin dominance chart only goes back to prior cycles, mainly because before 2015, we literally had Bitcoin and about 3 others. So there wasn't any need for Bitcoin dominance because it was sitting around about 98%. But let's just have a look at what's happened previously. Fairly obvious from this one. But the week of the halving actually happened on the 9th, as I said. So it's the back end of this candle. But you can see immediately after the halving, people started moving into it. Now, is it a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Typically, yes, it is. So what you see that sharp sell-off, a gradual build back up, then a further sell-off, and then a massive waterfall sell-off signifying alt season. But after the halving, we do typically see a retracement on BTC, as seen in the July 16 example. We now go to May 2020. What happened? Exactly the same. So the start of this candle was the exact start of it. So it was green the week of this. Although I did say it was May 11th, didn't I? So that's on, 11th. There we go. But immediately afterwards, shot back down. Yes, within the week, we had a sharp rise up, but then hell of a high test, should I say, and a jump down. This was a sharp move down. We went from 68 all the way down to 57 in a matter of months. Okay, we then started to turn around, but I'm not looking at the long term. I'm looking at what happens immediately afterwards. We had buy the event, buy the rumor, sell the event. And what are we having right now? Well, we're ranging at the moment. We may see a move down, may turn around. I might get caught out on this one. We may start to see a move up. But I feel quite strongly that in 7 to 10 weeks, we're going to see that turnaround again because people are going to buy the rumor or will have bought the rumor. They're going to sell the news. Halving typically is sell the news events. So we're going to see that dominance come back down. Now, I feel it's going to be very similar then to what we experienced in the 2020. I think Bitcoin will have its day again. It will climb up. How high we get to, we're not here to speculate at the moment. We can have a look at some levels, I suppose, a little bit later on, especially with institutional money coming in. Maybe it does get quite high. Maybe we do see 60%. But I do feel we're going to get that rise into it. And so in that medium term, I'm hoping there is an opportunity to move back into BTC, to fall back in love with it, if you will. This tenuous link to the Valentine's Day, which happened 6 days ago. But anyway, we are where we are. Desperate times and all. And then, yeah, an opportunity to ride that up, try and take it as best we can, see another event in which is going to, roll over like we've seen here, and then milk the alt season all the way down. And then, what happens after that? Well, unfortunately, we go into our 4-year cycle again. We're going to sit in stables. I'm hopefully going to take a bit of profit off the table. I'm going to sit in stables for approximately a year, and then I'm going to move back into the market. Now, I think I'll move back into the market with more conviction. Dip my toe in when we got to November 22 because I was still pretty fearful. But I think we'll be looking to go that way. So, because the goal for me is always to have some BTC. It's always to try and have that battle plan, if you will, in case the worst happens with fiat currencies, and we do end up requiring to use BTC as a form of currency. And I did see a news article, which I suppose is kind of relevant now. And the reason is Bitcoin is getting scarcer and scarcer. I know that sounds obvious, but with institutions buying it all up, actually we're seeing that not only is the amount of Bitcoin, not just on Coinbase, but on exchanges reducing, but people are getting smarter. They're not even leaving their Bitcoin with the exchange. They're withdrawing it. Typically, we withdraw Bitcoin for long-term holds. So, start of a bull season, yes, you'd expect people to withdraw that because they're going to hold it for a year or two. But we've got to remember, after the halving, the supply is going to reduce. It's going to get halved. We're going to be down to, 3.125 BTC every 10 minutes? That ain't a lot. And so, we're going to have less and less in which we can buy. And when people do finally wake up to the BTC, you've all seen the story. There's going to be millions of people running out to try and get their hands on a Bitcoin when there's only 1 million left in circulating supply. What do you think is going to happen? One, the price is going to go up. But two, it's going to be incredibly hard to own a full Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised. It feels to me, let me take a step back. 2017, people were talking about owning 5, 10 BTC. 2021, it was 1 to 5 BTC. This one, I'm talking retail here, not institutions. People are happy to have 1 or 2 BTC. I got a feeling when we get into the next bull run, or maybe not that one, the one afterwards, we're going to be talking about decimals of BTC. People are going to be happy in owning. And so at some stage, I need to convert my passion for BTC into an actual love for BTC and hold it long term. Actually, not be trying to trade it anymore. Think of it more as this is a rainy day fund. I need to put something away that I don't touch because I'm very, 1, proud to own it, but 2, I actually think I'm going to need it at some stage. And it's going to become incredibly valuable and scarce and hard to own, etc. So, yeah, that's kind of where I see sort of BTC. And in terms of the dominance, I'll have a look in the chat in a moment. Sorry, I've been skirting over that one. But I do feel we have had a rejection here. We've had rejections before. I do feel there is a move down. And so I do feel, despite it being a red on the right at the moment, there is a potential for a mini alt season over the next couple of weeks, particularly led by Ethereum. Now, Ethereum's got its own hype around a potential ETF. It also moves normally, if you follow that flow, BTC into Ethereum, to large caps, to micro caps, to degen, to absolute, you wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, but you might 10,000 exit. And then to getting wrecked. And so we're probably likely to see that Ethereum is going to move first. We could argue that we've already seen that over the last couple of weeks. Matter of fact, let's just throw up the Ethereum dominance chart. And you can see where Bitcoin has struggled over the last couple of weeks, Ethereum has started to shoot up. And that's what we want to see. For an alt season, majority of you, it looks like from the poll, don't hold any BTC at the moment. So you want alts to benefit. Ethereum's likely to lead the way, and everything else is going to follow from that. Percentages may be higher than Ethereum, but I think Ethereum will lead the charge. But going back to the BTC dominance chart, where do I see it potentially running to? So what options do we have? We do normally see a bit of a run-up prior to the halving. You could argue potentially we've had that run-up. We've been having that run-up since 2022 end of, and we've gone from 40% to 55 when it wicked up there, so 15% increase. Not too bad. So maybe we just range around this a little bit here. We see the halving, and then we typically see what happens with the rest of the cycle. When we look at sort of other levels that could be of interest to us, and we just mark a couple of them off. We've got this one here. We've potentially got this one up here. So we're talking about 58% and 62%. Now, for me, they're huge levels. You know, we're talking another 10% from where we are at the moment to get to the top of that, 63. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely to happen before the halving? Only if one of two things happens. Firstly, Bitcoin hits all-time high before the halving, which I'm sitting on the side of the camp that it won't do that. I do think we potentially have another leg up, but so yeah, either Bitcoin has to hit all-time high before the halving, so in 7 weeks we've got to get 70k, or Bitcoin does go up, but alts absolutely get crushed for whatever reason. Alts get crushed, and just by way of people leaving alts and putting money into BTC or into stables, it moves the BTC dominance up. So yeah, I can see that. The thing is, if we do break this 54% level, there isn't really much holding us to 58. So, I mean, you could argue there's a bit of noise in and around here at maybe 56. So maybe we've got 2% increments. But that 58, in 7 weeks, I could actually see that getting to. You've got to remember, once we get to 58, it's a major point. I'd expect some sort of reaction from that. So I think, for me, best case scenario would be a run-up. Actually, it's the worst case scenario because I'm out of BTC at the moment, except for the business pot, which I won't touch. But yeah, best case scenario for Bitcoin is a dominance to get up to 58% in 7 weeks. And then we start to see it roll over. Now, that 62 level, 63 level, could I see that happening afterwards? Do it, if I see something like this, then we start to see it coming back down, and then it builds up into 2025, then Altseason. Yes, I could see that happen. And that's something very similar to what we saw happen in 2020. We saw it come down quite sharply, almost a V reversal, back up to the peak in in January. Then we start to see alts dominate. But remember, we were still climbing. We just happened to get to 40. We breezed through 40,000, if you remember, in a matter of days. And then we were sort of like that 50 to 60,000 happened in this drop here because alts were just, taking huge chunks out of the Bitcoin dominance. And so, yeah, I could see exactly the same happening here. And then at some stage during 2025, we have the fall off waterfall effect back down to circa 40%. And then, yeah, off we go from there. So I just sniffed. I should have muted myself there. Hopefully that wasn't too ASMR for you. Okay, let's have a look what's been put. RT pumping it in the last few hours. I don't know if you were talking about Tau then, but it has had a very good move. Chris, late tonight. I hope you not missed it. You missed nothing. Periodically my mic just likes to have a little update, but anyway, here we are. Amex, but I agree with flip-flopping between CAS and Tau. What percent are you thinking of your flip-flop pot? So I basically, when I sold my BTC, the intention was I was moving it into alts, and I haven't moved all of it yet. I've been putting some in, so I've just taken that pot. It's not, I mean, I could work out the percentage. I just can't think on my feet, and I've got my socks on, so I can't use my toes. But it is just that, just on $6,000. I'll be totally honest with you, it's $6,000, it's 10 Tau, and so I'm just going to flip 100% each time when I feel it's come to a certain level, and I'll do that for as long as I feel comfortable, and then yeah, I just want more Tau I'm not too bothered about the CAS side of things. I believe he said he had the designated pot. Yep, there we go. Jamie's 59 days, 22 hours, 47 minutes until the halving. Don't forget, guys, Jamie's in the future. He lives in Australia. So take all that with a pinch of salt. Obviously, I'm joking, in case anyone actually thinks I don't understand how time works. Do you have a total 3 chart showing the alt market caps entering the halving? Of course we do. Total 3 is here. And then let us draw them on. So it only goes back to 2017. So I can only do 2. Well, 1 really. But we've got May 11. And we've got roughly, so not the best view, but you can see it, you know, total still went up. Total 3, it still went up. Prices can still go up. The dominance is just based on how fast one is climbing against the other, almost, or descending. And so, yeah, you know, since the halvings, you know, we went from 57 billion to 868 billion. So what's that? 15, 16, 17x, something like that. Not too bad. At the moment, you know, leading into it, we're going to be around about 600 billion. Let's just say, let's be an optimist, around about 600 billion at halving time. What are we hoping to get with a market cap? Well, let's just say we get to 10 trillion for easy maths, and BTC is 40% dominance. That means that's worth 4 trillion, giving us 6 trillion left. So there's still a potential 10x of total 3. That doesn't even include Ethereum in that one. So yeah, there we are. Right. So look. Are you going to wait in stables 100% as fiats could collapse if you wait? Well, I like to think I'm in a relatively smart group, and lots of groups, not all of them smart. And so, you know, whenever there is going to be some global financial meltdown, I'd like to think I would at least get a whiff of that before Joe Public, and then I can make a move. So generally, no, I will sit for the majority of it in stables. The plan is to do that, to try and get as lot, you know, a rebuy back in. If Bitcoin falls after it goes up to 200k, falls down to 60,000 or whatever, say that's the bottom. You know, the idea would be to put 100% of whatever the allocation was going to be into BTC straight away, and then just play the game as we've done. So I want to talk about, you know, marrying your altcoin bags in a moment, but at some stage moving over into altcoins and then going from there. What made you restake the dot you had unstaked? What made me restake the dot I had unstaked? Good question. So I originally had unstaked some dot, and I had to wait 28 days, and I was going to buy some tau. Obviously, with me selling BTC, the majority of that I sold, I'd be putting into tau. And I just thought, well, I'll go back to the original plan because I got plenty of, look at me, plenty of money out the BTC sale, for me anyway, to put into alts. So I'll just put the dot back where it was supposed to be. I'll just stick with that plan. As boring as it is, safe, it was part of the original idea behind it. And the good thing is you can just cancel your unstaking, and it immediately just starts restaking it. It's not like you have to wait another 28 days for that to go in. So I got to about halfway through the process. But yeah. Okay. Let me have a quick sip, and then I want to talk now, if I can. Good job we didn't have any news, because I've already spent half an hour on that. About altcoins. I want to talk about the spreadsheet here I've done, and that is a lot of information to take in. I will release this to you guys. I'm going to find a way to tidy it up a little bit later. I kind of rushed putting in these colors just for tonight, and I'm going to try and explain it all to you. But this goes back to any of you that have downloaded or looked at the portfolio spreadsheet that I did, which I don't have up. Let me just open it for you. It's in Discord. You just go into Avenger chat. It's pinned there, and there's a video for how to have a look at it. But the price prediction sheet. So once I've finished, I will add this as a tab onto the price prediction sheet. But, you know, a lot of people are interested in this side. You know, it's the market dominance, and I suppose the estimated dominance of tokens. Okay, because that's how we determine ultimately what we think the price prediction is going to be, is the estimated overall market dominance and where we think the market cap is going to be. So I got to thinking about past cycles. I got to thinking about altcoins, and I got to thinking about, you know, where are some of the altcoins that I loved in 2017 and in 2021? How are they doing now? And actually, can that give me some indication of where the market might be? Is there any similarities? And I can assure you, this was one of the most boring data entry things I've ever done, because I didn't data scrape it because I thought I'd be quick about it. But no, I typed out these figures by hand because I'm an idiot. So they are rounded up, because once it got to in the hundreds of millions, who the hell cares? But yeah, so I've gone through 2017. And what I've done with 2017, as I scroll down, let me just move my face cam out of the way, because we're going to be looking at this data on the left. So just bear with me a second. Okay. Hopefully you can all still hear me. Someone tell me if you can't. Hopefully you can. Anyway, I've removed face cam, and you should at least be able to see me. Right, so 2017, which is on the left-hand side, scroll down, and I have literally written out the top 100 as they were on the day, roughly, of the peak. Okay? Thank you, Jamie. I've done the same with 2021, and, you know, I've had to use the historical dates. Okay? So I know that the bull run didn't end on the 14th of November. The Bitcoin high was at 69,000, which was actually on the 8th or 9th. I can't get that date and get everything else. So it's as close to it as we can. And then I've had a look at where we are now. Now, you will notice that this is at just under $2 trillion, because it was before that little dump we had. We might have actually recovered and got close to that. But this is where we were, snapshot. And I just, again, took all 100. So 300 tokens, 300 prices, 300 total market caps. And I started having a look at some of this stuff, and I wanted to understand a couple of things. One, how advantageous or risky is it for you just blindly going with something that you loved in a previous cycle? What's the likelihood that it's going to do as well? But also, how much does the top 100 change? And what does that potentially tell us about what may happen over the next 12 to 18 months? So I'm not going to go through it line by line, because that's not really what we're here for. But what I'm really focused on at the moment is 2017, so this left-hand column, into 2021. And don't worry about the market caps at the moment. Matter of fact, let's just hide that field. It's irrelevant to us right now. We're going to look at these colorings, okay? The colorings are the important thing, because the colorings symbolize, if it's yellow, as the key suggests, it's actually maintained its position. If it's green, it's maintained its top 10. So between 2017 to 2021 peak, it's maintained inside the top 10. If it's orange, it's maintained inside the top 25. Top 50 is blue. Top 75 is purple. Top 100 is gray. Out, it's no longer in the top 100, is red, and it doesn't even exist anymore, is black. Okay? So we've done that from 2017 into 2021, and then from 2021 to where we are now. Okay? Now, looks like quite a multitude of colors. We can see the first 41 tokens on here, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, they've stayed where they are. Did we expect anything different? No, we didn't. Bitcoin Cash was number 3 at the time, closely followed by XRP, Litecoin, ADA, IOTA, Dash, NIM, Monero. That made up the top 10. Okay. Some of you people relatively new probably never heard of Dash or NIM, and you probably never really seen or used or thought of buying IOTA either. But that's what it was. And then we had some crazy ones after that. BitConnect, obviously not here anymore. BitConnect, Hype Cash, look at all of these ones. Einsteinium. But yeah, it was started off as, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum managed to maintain their place. But then after that, only XRP managed to stay in the top 10 out of what that original top 10 was. And of the rest of the top 10, they either fell into the top 25, the top 50, or the top 75. As we start to go down, these colors move and shift to just 2 colors only. As we get closer and closer, so the top 25 generally stayed within the top 100. And what we had was 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 projects that either no longer remained, well, none of them remained in the top 100, and one of them didn't exist anymore. When we go from 26 to 50, we can see a sudden change there. So 26 to 50, we actually only had 3 that remained in the top 100, 2 of which actually climbed all the way up to the top 10. And then we had, got to do the math, 22 that dropped out, at the top 100. And then as we go down even further, it gets worse. Okay, now we really are starting to have a look. So down to 75. Again, we had 3, but we had a lot more that are completely failing. But am I being blind? Bitcoin Cash is orange in 2017, but is not in the top 25 in 2021. Yeah, it's there. 18. You are being blind. Anyway. And then it looks down at the bottom. It's just all black and reds, except for Crow, or Cronus as it's now called. So this is Crypto.com's coin. It was originally called MCO. Good old Chainlink. Chainlink down there at 91 back in the day. And so those ones made it out. So we can summarize that with 21 of the top 100 are gone, no longer exist anymore. 50 of the 50 additional, no longer in the top 100. 7 are in the top 10, so some of them did move up. 7 moved or maintained to top 25. 8 moved or remained to top 50. 2 moved or remained to top 75. 5 moved or remained in the top 100. But 71 tokens, by the time we got to 2021, were completely new, were completely different. And that's the point that we'll see as we move across again, that, okay, it was, a more immature market, but these altcoins move around a lot. And, some of the ones in 2017 haven't made it. Now, those that have, they've been around long enough, a bit like Bitcoin now, that it's a lot harder to kill them off. And what we're going to see in the next progression is those that have managed to stay in the top 100 across 2017, 2021, to where we are now, are actually very high up on the charts, and they have done well that way. But as we see, as we move across, even moving from 2021, where a lot of us were in the market, a lot of us had a lot of favorite projects, we look to where we are now, and the top 100 landscape is completely different. And I'm not going to go through him, line by line, but what you can clearly now start to see is the top 10 is actually starting to cement itself. And if you want to take that a little bit further down, the top 20, except for 4, has actually remained the same, really. So we're starting to, we're starting to see that the big dogs that were around and were popular in 2021, some of them were around, not all. Solana's a new one, new in inverted commas. AVAX as well was new, it was not around 2017, but they are starting to cement themselves. They're getting the following, they're getting the tech, they're getting the support, they're getting the market cap and the exposure, and they're managing to stay up there. That's going to play an important part a little bit later on. Harry, did you find out about the validator offering good deal? I'll come back to that. And actually, as I say, that top 20 is generally there or thereabouts. Things like Luna. I mean, Luna's still around. I would black that normally, but it is still technically there. BUSD goes soon, so that's why I turned it black. Oh, no, it's a bit later. FTT is technically still here, so you gotta leave it around. But you can kind of suddenly see that actually top 20, except for it's slightly moving around in and amongst itself, kind of stayed the same. And so we have a lot more colors. In the previous one, there was the reds were creeping in, reds and blacks, quite strongly after the 25. Well, not here. We go all the way down to 50, and generally there's some form of color. So the top 50 have either maintained their position, increased, or they've slipped, but they've generally kept their spot within the top 100. It's only after we get past 50 that suddenly the reds start to creep in. And similarly, again, once you get into that top 75, actually, you haven't really managed to maintain where you are right now. So if we go down again, only one disappeared, BUSD, 42. So 40, it was 21 sorry, 71 last time. It's now 43 this time that are not in the top 100 anymore. So there has been a reduction, and then the breakdown of how the rest of them moved are there. But what is interesting is 19 projects have managed to stay in the top 100 between 2017 to now, and from 2021 to now it's 56. So that 19 I talked about are generally in and around that top 25. Even Chainlink, which was originally as 91, has moved up quite nicely now. I think Link is in the teens somewhere, number 12, not quite the teens, a little bit better than that. Crow is the outlier, because I don't know where Cronus is, it's 45. But generally, the rest of them are all up there. Why am I taking you through that story, and why is it necessarily important? Well, you've got to understand that, if you are passionate about a project, you still need to stay on top to see whether or not it's actually going to do, what you hope it's going to do. Because as we've seen, there is an attrition rate in the top 100. And a lot of these reds, I didn't bother. As long as it was outside the top 100, I wasn't bothered. A lot of these reds are mid to high thousands. They're dead. They're utterly dead, these projects. Okay? They technically have a market cap, so I've kept them red, but they are nowhere to be seen. So, just bear that in mind, excuse me, that, they can drop away. And we're not bothered about what the market cap is. I'm bothered, what I'm getting to, is what the percentage is, what the percentage of the market cap is, what their market dominance is going to be. Because that's what's going to be the next important field. So if I just... So I'm having to bring this back in. I'll hide these now, just to try and save your eyes a little bit, because we're not going to talk about those. So, what we can now see is something is forming across the 3 time periods. Granted, they're not 3 4-year gaps, because this one's only a 3-year between 2020, or 2.5 year, between 2021 and halfway through, well, beginning of 2024. What I've done is I've taken their current market cap against the total market cap at the peak to work out what the percentage is, okay? And we've been able to do that. And what you can actually see, okay, there's some nuance around this, and I accept that. But generally, figures are kind of similar, 5, 2.79, 2.52, 2.39, okay? We're starting to see that actually, depending on what position you hold, you don't get an exact guaranteed always going to be the same amount market cap, but we can start to get a flavor for what size of the pie we might get if our token that we like actually gets to that spot. And just by using some averages, we can kind of work out what that's going to be for all top 100. So that's what I did. So I took the average of the 3, and then we rolled it down, and you can kind of see actually down here. And this equates to, when you add, I don't know why it didn't do that. It's just equals, I can't hear just 95%. So the top 100 on average is going to take up 95% of the market. So the rest from 101 to 22,000 is only going to equate to 5%. Bear that in mind. And you know what I'm getting at here, because we've had figures thrown out of 5 and 10% for some of the tokens that we like. I'm just trying to reinforce that actually it's not quite as easy as it's going to be to get there. Now, of course, there's some caveats, because at the moment Bitcoin's lying at 51%. We expect that to drop. I would expect Ethereum to climb. I would also expect USDT and other stablecoins to reduce, because people are on the sidelines still. I've got a little bit on the sidelines. I'm sure others in the chapter as well. And so, yep, I agree. I accept that there's some nuance to some of this, and some of it's going to move around, but we can only do with the data of what we've got. But now we can start to throw some figures at it, can't we? We can start looking at market caps. What could the market cap be? Well, I've gone and done 3. We've got 4 trillion, an 8 trillion, and a $10 trillion market cap. And using the averages, we can kind of have a look. And it doesn't matter if Bitcoin's wrong at the moment. It doesn't matter if Ethereum's wrong at the moment, because we don't have to look at that. We can just have a look at the average of the others to try and give us a flavor. So if you get to the top 10, I don't know how Simon works this one out, because he argues by looking at his averages, the average of the top 12 is 1.82% or something like that. But I would argue this is a cleaner way of looking at it, because that is skewed by some of the ones in third and fourth, etc., because they're much higher. But ninth position is less than 1%. To get into the top 10, you're generally going to have less than 1% of the market. And so we can start to have a look. Well, it doesn't matter what token it is. You can now use these figures on the side here and go, okay, well, I would think we're going to be a top 10 token. So let's have a look at what top 10 is. Top 10, if we were at number 10 and it was an $8 trillion market cap, then we're going to have approximately 72 billion. Okay, then we can go across to that of, what did I do with it? I closed it. Just bear with me again. You get what I'm getting at here. Like I say, it doesn't look pretty at the moment. This is just a data dump, and I will tidy it up for you. But we can throw this one along, and we can start looking at our market cap. So maybe we can change these figures here to align. I could change this to 8 trillion or whatever to align. But we've got some big numbers here, and I'm like, well, suddenly, wait a second. Okay, Binance Coin, it could average 200. What we've done the calculation here, 261 billion. Well, Binance Coin was number 3 beforehand, currently sitting at number 1. Wait a second, 261 to 325. That kind of fits, So maybe the figure we're spouting out there might actually work. Okay, we think BitTensor is going to get to top 10. BitTensor, anywhere from, well, we think it's going to be around about 85 billion based on the 3 averages we've got there. Top 10, anywhere from 71 to 89, 90 billion, sorry. Perfect. Actually, that seems like that could suddenly work. And so what I'm doing by trying to introduce this secondary sheet for you is to just give you a bit of a counter reality check of, one, what the top 10 in terms of dominance is going to look like based on past performance. Hey, I accept, there's a lot of assumptions have to be put in this, and so it might just totally blow something out of the water, gobble up all of that. But it's unlikely. It's unlikely because you not only have to improve yourself, you have to increase. And it's relatively easy. This shows you how things can climb up quite quickly because these are only 0.01% difference. Yeah. So it is easy to jump from 80, which is 0.05%, to 50, which is 0.1%. It's only a sort of a double. But suddenly to go from 50 to position 50 to position 10, you've got to 9 times again. Okay, so and that's market dominance. That's not market cap. So it's not quite as easy as perhaps you are thinking it's going to be. And that that's just a sharp reality and potentially a painfully sharp reminder for some of you. But just have a play around with it. Once it's ready, I'll color it somehow so it's just easier to look on the eye, and you can have a look and sort of digest that yourself. Now, in terms of bands, I'll create sort of but ultimately you can have a look at position 11 and go, right, well, we don't really think 4 trillion is realistic, but it's a worst case. So you might just want to disregard those, or you just add it to your equation and do an average here on the right hand side, whatever you want to do. But you can just have a look and just go, okay, well, I don't really like the finiteness of 11. So how about I band, if we get between 11 to 20, then that's an average of 0.5 or something like that. However you want to do it. I'm just trying to data dump at the moment, and then we'll tidy it up afterwards. But hopefully it'll help. In doing it, I really thought about marrying your bags in terms of like having a passion project, because everyone knows I'm quite deep into the Polkadot ecosystem, especially now with my BitTensor holdings as well. It is quite a considerable amount of my portfolio. Is that the right thing to do? I mean, Polkadot has established itself within this. So do I worry that it might fall out of the top 100? No, given on the fact that it's managed to maintain itself, over 2 peaks that I've assessed in and around that top 15 area. It looks like it's cementing itself, and the data kind of suggests that if it was in the 50s, it might fall away. I did this with CoinMarketCap. We all know it has some CoinMarketCap has some glitches. in terms of like BitTensor is still 203. So I added BitTensor in based on the CoinGecko market cap, so I pushed that down. But I dare say some of these others will also be wrong. And also look, like KuCoin's coin is 1 billion. And you think, well, Ronan's is less than that. But it was just the second that I went from one to the other, the price changed. I couldn't be bothered moving it. So there's some little nuances there, but ultimately it doesn't overall affect where this is. But yeah, feel free to poke holes in it, hate it, love it, whatever. I'm giving it to you for free. So if you don't like it, don't use it. Okay, let's have a look. I'll talk about Validate in a moment. Well, I use First Tensor. That's who I use because Colt, who I saw was in the chat a second ago, told me to use it, and I thought, right, well, what better level of validation can you get than Colt telling me otherwise? So I did. So I probably could have done some better due diligence myself, but I know he had looked around at APRs, and he had said at the time that is the highest APR. Why bother wasting any energy looking? I trust that he wouldn't have made a mistake on that, so I'm going to go with them. That's what it was. Alex put amazing calculations, Harry. We understand it's just dumb stats, but it looks really interesting. It could, be complete, utter bollocks, but it's something, isn't it? It's something to just try and hone. All this stuff is about giving you some tool to create an exit plan. We've got that time horizon, which someone in the RT questions has, challenged me on. Not them directly, but they're giving me some information to challenge on. So we'll have a look at that. But yeah, just giving you another kind of milestone or kind of data point to decide whether or not your exit plan is actually achievable. Because if you are expecting BitTensor to take up 10% of the market, I'm going to have to ask you how. That is going to be incredible, because it's likely if it takes 10%, it's likely maybe even challenging Ethereum at number 2, because it's going to have to eat that market share from somewhere. It's going to have to climb up from, what's its current share? 0.19%. So they're almost going to have to add 10% from where it is at the moment. Let's face it. And the vast majority of that's going to have to come off the two big boys, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so if it is going to get to a double figure, I'd be arguing that it's going to be very close to taking the mantle number 2. Whether or not that's achievable, I'll leave for you to decide. Okay. Yeah, so I'll send these as well. These are just the data snaps. Always worth just having a look through them. It's amazing, like some of the tokens. For some of the guys that were and girls that were around in 2017, some of the ones we used to run for EOS. I mean, I know they're still around. NEM, used to have some Dash as well. Waves, I can't believe Waves is actually that old, but there it was. Verge, I remember. So yeah, it's interesting that it's sort of a trip down memory lane. But a lot of them, I couldn't even tell you if they've been rebranded. So okay. Question time. Chris has asked for my thoughts on Pixel. It's just listed on Binance. So I'd heard about Pixel, but I'd never really looked into it. But you're right, yesterday it utilized Binance Launchpad, and it did launch. Now, amazingly, for a launchpad on Binance, it didn't really pump and dump, to be fair. Don't know what the vesting periods are, so maybe that's got something behind it. But it launched at 51 cents and it's currently sitting at 53 after a day and a half. So thereabouts. It does have a pretty high market cap, 400 million. And it's only got 15% of its circulating supply at the moment. So it could just be that this has had a lot of hype behind it. Now, what is it, and why have Binance decided that they can use their launchpad to list this token? Well, it is in the GameFi space. It is a play to earn game. I actually set this up and started playing it today. I kind of got bored after 5 minutes. But effectively, you farm, you can shop, you can buy extra stuff and all of this, and ultimately you can earn tokens in the game. It is on the Ronin network. For those of you that remember Axie and SLP, that was also supported on the Ronin network. Matter of fact, this is very heavily supported by the Axie team, which some of you may think is a negative, but actually, I think that could be a positive. Ultimately, Axie was the most successful play-to-earn game in the 2020-2021 bull run. And although tokenomics may not have necessarily worked, it did have a huge fan base, it had a huge following, and a huge cult playability community. And, you know, if this is marketed correctly, I could quite easily see that community adopting this in terms of the infrastructure, including the Ronin network and the wallets and everything else. It's already set up for them. It's obviously a different style of game, but it still gives them an opportunity to play to earn. And we know the countries that, you know, in sort of in the Indonesia and Polynesian, I don't know what kind of area you'd call that, Southern Asia area, were very much, you know, running and front running the play to earn sector. And so, yeah, I think there is some opportunity there. Now, I've not played it enough to, you know, really know, but there is opportunities to buy land in which you can then rent out. So there's money there. There's NFTs that can be bought, and you can stick a windmill or a billboard to advertise stuff and all that. I don't know. So there's some sort of marketplace and some sort of opportunity to buy and sell your NFTs and your products to actual people for actual cryptocurrency. So it's not just a sell pressure of a token, you know, and so, yeah, I think there's a positive side there. GameFi, whether or not you like the graphics, whether or not you think they are games that you're particularly interested in, is a big sector, and it has a big pull towards it. If they could find I believe this is only a desktop version, if they could get this on a mobile phone, I think they will have really helped to crack it. And then with the likes of Ronin and the Axie connection, and, you know, the community that is behind it in terms of, I don't know if it's on this page. I don't think it is. Where is it then? That's not what I wanted. You know, I wanted to find who had sort of financed it and already got in on it, but I can't remember which page it's on. But there's, you know, there's a decent amount of investors, that's the term I was looking for, that have already brought on board with this. So, you know, GameFi being one of the biggest sectors out there, and I think it'll be a big sector in the 2024-2025 bull run. Pixel having, you know, the marketing of being launched on Binance's launchpad with Ronin support and the Axie community. I don't think it's necessarily going to go anywhere. Whether or not it is going to see massive pumps, I don't know, because I've not looked at tokenomics. But thank you for putting it on the radar. I probably won't look into it anymore, but I'm going to pass it on to people that are interested in gaming tokens and let them see what they come back and tell me. Adam's gone put, like usual, not on the call, but wondering what your thoughts on how much longer we'll see these wild swings and big opportunities in crypto, given the ETFs have now been granted. Basically, how long do we have to make serious money before it all starts acting like a regular stock market, and those massive ROIs aren't really a thing anymore? Okay, Adam, good question there, and it's with two answers. I would argue if you're only in love with Bitcoin, I'm going to have to get that love word in as many times as possible to justify the title of this stream, then those gains have not passed you by, but those mad gains, those mad returns, they've been diminishing over time. And, you know, we've seen that in terms of the percentage uplifts each cycle, you know, have always diminished. And I dare say that it's like this one does. I mean, from market bottom to potentially, let's say 200k, you know, there's still a 10 to 12x that you could have benefited from, which is definitely nothing short to be sniffed at. And the ETFs at the moment are only granted on BTC. So, yeah, we may start to see some form of stability on BTC as institutions keep buying it up. But, you know, you've got to remember at the moment, Bitcoin's only at $1 trillion. And yet, at the height of the market, it was at $1.9 trillion, and it still came crashing all the way down. You know, so yes, institutions over time with a long enough horizon, I'm sure will, you know, continue to hoover up, assuming that it is successful for them. And we're just making the assumption that it is what the investors want. Yes, the investors want it initially, because it's new and it's something that they think they can get some gains from, and I'm absolutely sure they will. But if they don't and they lose interest in it, you can be sure that they will turn on and dump it. I don't believe that will happen, but they won't keep it going if it's not profitable for them and it's not profitable for their investors. So I digress. So, certainly this cycle, in talking just BTC, I think there's opportunity for some big gains, especially if you've been in, BTC longer than the last month since the ETFs have launched. Then I think there's definitely opportunity for some gains. I still believe in the 4-year cycle, so I still believe that retail will come in, there will be a blow off top, and there will be a correction. That correction will probably be driven by institutions, including the ETFs, taking profit, because ultimately that's what they need to do to pay their investors, don't they? So they'll want to take some profit, drive that price all the way down. How far, we don't necessarily know. And then, look to get in again. They'll just be smarter and more cutthroat than we will about it. But ultimately, I can see as, supply continues to dry up with those halvenings, this does become less and less a thing. And ultimately, retail almost gets priced out of the market because they just can't afford to buy the Bitcoin, or even a tenth of a Bitcoin, because it just becomes too expensive. Now, moving on to altcoins, I think altcoins will always present us with an opportunity to make money, because there's always some degen dogshit meme coin that will be out there that people will get behind and want to see that 100x plus. Yes, further ETFs could be launched for the likes of Ethereum and maybe some of the other blue chip altcoins, maybe like Chainlink and Solana, etc., which then ultimately in time may take them off the path. But suddenly then you've also got to throw into things like tokenomics and how that works, because Bitcoin is finite. So after 100 odd years time, that's all it's going to be. Whereas some tokenomics like Dogecoin, it's just print this bad boy into oblivion. The party will stop with that at some stage. So, I think crypto will always be profitable. I think there's always going to be opportunities for degen plays. But what we may end up seeing is just a change in how we go about doing that. That cycle of moving into Bitcoin, we may have to just change, and it's into altcoins. And we just forget about Bitcoin. And if you happen to have grabbed the bag prior to it stabilizing out, then great for you. And it's just something you can brag about to people. Whereas we'll be then looking at using the 3-year bullish time of that 4-year cycle to cycle our way through altcoins, missing the step of the BTC. It's just my opinion there, but I think that's where it's going to go. Tacos has put, the ETFs aren't necessarily being funded by investors wanting BTC. Some of the big boys like Fidelity are mixing there you go, BTC ETFs with their index funds. Okay, so there you go. It's not solely them just clients knocking down the door. Maybe something's been forced down their throats. So with that sort of tactic, likely interest won't wane as many going in. There's a little heart over it, so in as it is right now. Might not even realize I have crypto exposure. I get that. And I think I can agree with that statement to a certain point of view. I think there'll always, there'll always be a rush to the door of people wanting to get in on something new. It's just human nature. But as that gets normalized, people will then look for the next thing that they think will make them more money. So I think interest may wane, whether or not it falls off a cliff. But if we were 100 at the beginning of ETF, I do expect to see that taper off somewhere like 99. I'd stick with it because we're all here because we love crypto. Anyway, Alan's put, would be interested to get your thoughts on the following video, which I have watched. Basically saying the cycle top would come June to November 2024. Stand by your beds, everyone. 4 months until the cycle top, not in 2025. Seen a few other people talk about this on X as well, so I thought it might be good to look at. Okay, that's the link for it. Crypto El Presidente. I'd not necessarily heard of this gentleman before, and I'm not going to play the video because it's 10 minutes long, but I'm going to try and summarize his thoughts, which will probably take me longer than 10 minutes. And then I'll give my thoughts on the video. So basically what El Presidente is effectively saying is people are just having a look at 3 of the local tops over the history of Bitcoin. They're looking at this one, and then what happened in November here. And we're extrapolating out the fact that everything happens in either November or December of a half, after the halvening. Oops, that's what I didn't want to happen. And so we would expect to see some sort of top in and around here. November 26th. And that's based on the space in between this. He then goes on to effectively say he doesn't believe in the 4-year halvening, doesn't think that has an effect on price at all. And he argues that one of the biggest things that people forget to include is this top here. This peak here, which happened halfway through a halvening, but was a clear peak. And so when you throw that into the mix, suddenly it skewers your view because you don't have 3 sole data points all telling you the same thing. You got this outlier, which is saying actually halfway through this in the summer, we also see a peak. He then goes on to say, and I've talked about this next point a bit as well, I must admit, and I'm still on the fence with the evidence here. He then goes on to say, well, actually, most on-chain metrics and a lot of other indicators suggest that the actual top was in April at 64,000. And what happened in November was led by the likes of FTX and those cronies, just pumping up the price, squeezing extra money out of retail. We got all over, a bit overexcited, and we peaked above that 64,000 before we come crashing down. And I've said that before, and we've talked about, are we having this left shifting pattern, which I am going to keep on my radar until it negates itself, because I still feel that that could genuinely be the case. A lot of indicators, as you said, volume, on-chain transactions, etc., all indicate that they peaked in April with the price. And then actually, when we got to November, everything was down from an on-chains and from an indicator point of view. The only thing that was higher was price. Now, my counter to that would be, whatever we think about on-chain and indicators, the market top, right or wrong, was wherever the market high was. And that happened to be at 69,000 in the beginning of November. So it doesn't matter what I think or what he thinks about April being the top. The actual top was in November. But when you add that April one in, what he suggests is that we have another summer rally. Then he adds the difference of the days together, and he gets a figure of 1,200 to 1,400 days. He extrapolates that from the April date, which gives us June to November this year. That's effectively where he gets it from. So, what do I think about the video? I can't agree with it because I do believe in the 4-year cycle. I think he puts a relatively good case for his argument as to why he thinks that way. But I just ultimately don't necessarily agree with the points that he's put out. And I think until we're proven otherwise, the 4-year cycle is in place. Now, my argument would be, if we're counting this as a cycle top, then why are we not counting this as a cycle top? Because that was still a hell of a move. And if we're counting that as a cycle top, then why aren't we counting both of these as cycle tops? And, suddenly then, we've got loads of cycle tops, and how do we know which is a top and which isn't, and how are we going to put all those data points together? So for me, I just don't believe, no, believe is not the right word. I don't agree with the rationale he's putting together as to what the cycle tops are. There's a reason we don't use, why did I do that? There's a reason we don't use this one here in November, because it's in the middle of the halving. So, where was it? It was around about here. It was November 12, wasn't it? The halving day. It was like there. So then that's where we get the peak. And then we had another halving day here. That's where the peak was. Another halving day roughly here. No, it wasn't. Roughly here. And we get the peaks, whichever one you want to choose. So that's why I stick with that, because that makes more sense. That's cleaner. That seems to work. And until that system's broken, I'm not going to invalidate my thinking beyond that. I've never seen anyone talk about the cycle top being this year, especially June. I just don't believe it's so close after the halving, before we've not even hit all-time high yet. For me, just the metrics and the analysis just doesn't line up for that to be the case. I won't rule out 100% November this year. Maybe that is We have some, incredibly bullish momentum with the all the elections that are going to have to go on this year, and all the promises the politicians are going to make with the printing the money, and potentially a major financial crash leading into next year. Maybe actually, yeah, we could see something happen early this year. I think we will, we haven't even had retail coming in yet. The level of interest, whether you're looking at Google Trends or you're looking at YouTube views or anything like that, is nowhere near where it was when the price was last at 50,000. So retail aren't here yet. Retail's what's going to blow this top off. So that doesn't give them much time to get in, lose their nerve, and then go full degen, but potentially. But I will certainly be looking for any time in 2025, and I'll be looking at a lot of the metrics to see whether or not things do line up as they did in April of 21. But yeah, that's my thought on that. We don't even have a true dumb money on the market yet. Exactly. Also, global liquidity cycle isn't quite has quite a way to go yet. Yeah, exactly. Maybe start the DCA out then. So yeah, one of the things I talked about was the Pi cycle. And the Pi cycle, although created in between 2018 and 2020 or 2021, and it was back tested against all the market previous bull highs, and it worked perfectly. It actually worked to the day again for the April high. Was it May high? I can't remember. April high. And I remember saying stuff, I'm going to do it. I will follow it. And I never did because, we're greedy bastards, aren't we? If that and other indicators start to suggest that the market is getting hot early, and, it's on the weekly, so you'll start to see if it's getting close to it, with months to go. Then yeah, I think I would look to take some off the table, even if it's just because there's going to be a natural pullback from that level. We can have a look at things like the power law now and just see, whether or not we're starting to get close to that upper band and all that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of things that we can look at to determine whether or not we think we are going in that direction. But yeah, we'll start talking about that back end of this year. We start to get excited and, we're starting to feel, for all the gains you guys may have experienced in the last couple of weeks, months, and if any of you weren't around in 2021, it is going to pale into insignificance for the face melting gains you're going to see later on when it's full alt season. And, nothing can prepare you for the greed you're going to suffer. And we all will, because you will not want to leave money on the table or take money off the table because one day could be another 30% increase. That's the kind of thing you're going to be battling. And, I don't think we're there yet at the moment. I really don't. Back to the questions. But can you give a quick walkthrough Cubic, especially the wallet part? Okay, yep. So I bought $1,000 worth of Cubic, and originally I'd left it on Trade Ogre, which is a website you wouldn't even believe exists, an exchange. So I felt pretty nervous about it, and the wallets were particularly difficult for me to understand. But I have now finally done it. I've done it on Brave, my different web browser, just because it's a web wallet, and if I click on it, it just automatically opens it up. And whilst I think it's only my public address on show, it's not a wallet I'm particularly too familiar with, so sorry, let's not take the risk. So Cubic 6.8, not too bad. So you just go to the website, takes you here, and then I just clicked on wallets. Now there are different versions that you can go for, but I found that browser extension just takes you to GitHub, and desktop also takes you to GitHub, and I get nervous when GitHub loads up because I have no idea what we're doing. So I clicked on the web wallet. This loads up a web wallet for you. You want to create Vault, so you just hit create Vault, and you just hit RT test. So in this first one, you need to give it a name. So I'm going to go RT test. I won't ever use this wallet, so it doesn't really matter. Create Vault. Account one's fine with me, but you can give it whatever name you want because you can subsequently add multiple addresses to this one vault. But let's just worry about setting up the first vault, shall we? So I'm going to randomize a seed because that's what we need to do. So hit that. So I've got my seed, which is what you don't really want to show people. And then I got my public ID. So think of this one as your private address, if you will, private passcode. And then this is your public ID, which is what you're going to, send stuff to, or for people to use to send stuff to you. And then you just hit create address. Think give it a password, test 1 2 3 okay 1, and then just hit download Vault, and then it's gonna download. It's gonna download a file for you. So there's a few steps, I'm afraid, but it's it pops everything up for you. So just hit save, download that there, and then you know what? I just took the piss and I don't even know what my bloody password was. I didn't think I had to put it in again. RT test 1 2. I'm never gonna remember this. RT test 1 2 3 equals that. Maybe. Is that it? We'll find out in a second. So anyway, assuming I've got my password right, you then click on the select Vault file, which will open up your PC again. Mine's still in downloads. So I've gone to downloads, click on that, click open. Then I'm going to hit verify Vault. And the chances are this is not going to work. It's only not going to work because my password is incorrect. Password didn't match, which I didn't, annoyingly, I didn't remember it because I was just doing it as a test. So you hit that. If the password is correct, it will just open up your wallet for you. And then you'll just have a wallet and you can go from there. I'm not really too bothered about, I'm going to open up my wallet on another page. If it doesn't have the private key on it, I don't mind showing you what it looks like. Looks good. Okay. Right. Don't think there's anything on there that can. So once you open it, this is what it's going to look like. So I've got account 1. That's how many I've got in there. It's obviously worth that much now. And then if I want to send it, receive a payment, there's my key, or I can use a QR code. It's all the ones in capitals. So just copy that, go to whatever exchange I need to, put it in, and then send it to here. And that's it, really. And I've not messed around with it for payments, because Cubic is all about, you can do offline payments and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in that necessarily at the moment. This is just so I don't have to start on Trade Ogre. So, yeah, that's it, really. Nothing more exciting than that. I probably won't add any more to this. This was just a little punt, just because I was feeling happy after the Tau Inu went so well. So yeah, so that's it. Hope that helps, Mo. I probably went through that a bit fast. Just watch it back. What an idiot. Why didn't I just do password 1 2 3 4 5? You know? Why was I trying to be a smart ass? I don't know. Don't need any of that open. So that's it. That's that one there. Let's just close some of these down. Okay. Is it possible that we don't see the crypto market cap reaches the highs we think, as people can access BTC outside of the crypto market, i.e. the ETFs? Well, they still need to you know, the ETF custodians or ETF, you know, like BlackRock, etc., still need to buy it. So no, I don't think that's necessarily the case. What, you know, there's plenty of black swan events that could ultimately turn this around. But, you know, for me, I think it's a foregone conclusion that we will see all-time high. I think we'll see all-time high this year, and ultimately see an all-time high in BTC will likely lead us to an all-time high in overall market cap. So how high it then goes from there, it's not necessarily, I think it's more we may just set our sights too high. So, you know, people talking about, I mean, I saw some people talking about, you know, it's going to be, I can't remember if it was 10% or 50% of all assets. I think it's 10% of all assets under management is how crypto is going to go, which I think is just ludicrous given how much assets under management there necessarily are. But you know, even 12 trillion is a big number. That's a 6x from where we are. That feels like that could take a lot, but you know, we're going to have outside help for that to happen. We're going to have the money printers turned on. We're going to have a favorable market. We're going to have a favorable banking system that allows us to put fiat into the system and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, there are a few things that have to happen, but we're not talking about tomorrow. You know, we're talking hopefully 18 months time. 18 months in my eyes is enough time for policy to completely reverse, and, you know, for things like the banking sector to get back on board. And I do think it's just you know, this happened in 2019, 2018. The banks turned on us. for those trying to get money in and out of crypto. And then suddenly they slacked again in 2020 and 2021. So I just feel that they're just playing the game as well. And we'll find it relatively easy to get our money in full bull. I mean, sadly, it'll probably come when retail FOMO in the last few months of it. But, you know, hopefully by then we'll be sitting pretty. And just waiting for those sweet gains to crystallize. Close that. That won't open anymore. Crypto Presidente say I've never followed him or anything like that before, so yeah, feel free to watch the video if you like that sort of thing. Done that one. Okay, I think we're gonna have a look at some price now, and then we'll. It's already 9:30. Call it a day. Okay, Bitcoin, and I've deliberately left. So this is the daily chart. This is the one that I always stick to, and I've deliberately left this high block level on because okay. Last week we hit it, but look at today's candle. Today's candle is not. It's just. Oh, we'll look on lower time frames. But what has today's candle done? I mean, if you weren't looking at your computer today, there's no pain or pleasure felt at all, because we have literally just recovered the losses we had yesterday, which was just a recovery of the gains we had the day before, which was just a recovery of the losses we had the day before that, which was just a recovery of the gains we had the 2 days prior to that. I mean, we have done nothing. Bitcoin has been boring. And yeah, okay, we've had some volatility, and we've had some volatility up and brought it down, but I'm not day trading, so that's not really helped me. It got me a better entry for Tau today, so yep, thank you very much for that. But other than that, I'm not taking advantage of today's movement, because Tuesday I'm usually head down trying to get stuff ready for tonight. But it's done, this to me actually still feels relatively strong. I spoke last week about how I still think there's strength within the market, and nothing about today's breakdown necessarily scares me. I wasn't scared about it 4 days ago, which it recovered. It's fallen to exactly the same level, and it's recovered it fairly conclusively. Okay, yeah, we're having some buying pressure at the moment. So the market makers, when we look on the lower time frames, you'll see, are having fun with the volatility. But for us that are sitting pretty in spots, or maybe looking for some opportunity to buy, this is just consolidating within here, and it's only so many times we can bounce between these levels before something happens. Okay, yes, a move down may happen, but just as likely, there's no negative news in the market at the moment. People are still pumped about ETFs, and the ETFs are still buying. Matter of fact, they're outstripping supply. I think it's between 6 and 8 times, according to Bitcoin Jesus, on a daily basis. So there's still some strength to be had within that. And ultimately, that means that we've got to look at some higher levels. I don't have a high block open, and for some reason this chart did save. But I think last week we were looking at anywhere from 55 to 58,000, which I know is a bit of a big range. But the reality is that's where I think I'll open up high block in a second. The next block is. Now, let's go on some smaller time frames. Let's go with a cleaner chart as well. Just so we can... It's just happened. Okay. So let's drop down to the 4 hour. Excuse me. Sorry, I just sniffed. Now, what we did see in that drop off last week was an attempt to get to the 50% recovery of this vector candle, which happened on Valentine's Day, which was the move up there. Now, we'd previously tried to clear that out over the weekend. We still didn't get to it, and again, we haven't hit. But what we have managed to finally hit was just a correction back to the 50 EMA. You know how much I love the 50 EMAs. We finally had that correction and an incredible strong bounce from it. And when this was crashing all the way down and I was looking at it, I was going to start talking to everyone about how excited I was to see a double top. But, that's how quickly things can change. And so, it did come all the way back down here, but it said, no. I want to go back up. And so it has. So although it was a double top, the double top did not play out. Now, drawing that other line back on here again, we've come back up. Okay. Our next battle has to be 52,500, break and maintain above that on the 4 hour. We can start to talk about some bullish side of things, but as things stand, we haven't broken up that. That has been a particularly tough level for us to break again. And what we could end up seeing is just bouncing along there, and then maybe another test back down here. And we start to see things like triple tops and stuff like that's talked about. But as we stay within this rectangle, in my opinion, there's nothing to get too nervous about in terms of price action. If anything, we have been hitting that upper level quite a lot. We know that typically weakens things. And I do feel that if I was gun to the head, I'd say that there's probably a move up first before a move back down. Now, what am I doing? And I I've spoken with people privately. I feel I'm almost paralyzed to act in full motion, because everything that I want to happen or think should happen, including the retrace, hasn't happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But we can't just go up from here. And so part of me just thinks there's got to be some form of a retrace to occur. We had that move from October to January where we had just a huge climb from 25,000 up to about 46,000. So almost a doubling of where we're at. And we've gone from 37,000 now to around about 53. So you could 16,000, a 50% gain on this, but with no pullback in sight. Part of me just thinks at some stage we need to have that pullback. Now, fear and greed currently sits at 74, I think. And after today, 72. And after today, I have a feeling that's going to go up. Unless things change in the next few hours, I think we're going to see people feeling very bullish again, because what have we done? We've come down to that 10 EMA. We bounced nice and cleanly off it on the daily, down to the 50 EMA on the 4 hour. So I'm sort of polarized. I am buying little bits. So I bought some Tau, bought some Tau Inu, bought some other stuff as well, as and when opportunities arise on a one-off basis. But that big move that I want to make I've struggled to do, because I just feel over the next 7 weeks leading up to that halving, we're going to have some form of correction. Now, I think we can rule out, fairly comfortably, at least over the next few weeks, down those low 30,000 just don't necessarily seem to be something that we can realistically consider at the moment. But I do feel that we should be seeing somewhere in the 40,000s again. On the daily, we've got a beautiful fanning of the EMAs, but we have got some vector candles there, and we do, whether we like it or not, whether we can bounce off the 10 EMA. We can't bounce off, we can't not touch the 20, and we always end up coming back to the 50. And so much like what it was when we were messing around at 38,000 and we hadn't touched in a while, part of me just feels I'm in no hurry. We've got 18 months to go. I'd rather not YOLO in here and miss an opportunity because we come back down. And if it takes me a few weeks to wait for these to catch up, start to, run out. And ultimately, price goes up here, but then comes back down. I'd rather wait for an entry after we've seen some sort of retest of things that I feel more comfortable with, EMAs and fib levels. And it will happen. And, if it takes a few weeks to get to that, then I'm absolutely fine with it. Maybe we do go slightly up first and it comes back down, but there will be a retest. And so that's where I feel more comfortable in doing it. Going on the fib, I know I was going to go on the lower time frames and I'm now stuck back on the daily, but again, 48 to 47,000 may be the ideal levels, that we look to now get to. Now, even 47, let's have a sharp drop tomorrow or the next day. I feel like the 50 EMA is going to pass that one. No guarantee that we won't break it. That's why I wish I had the other chart, because I had my trend line from the beginning of last year running through. I'll see if I can draw it, replicate it. Something like that. Might not be exact. Sorry, sniffing down the microphone again. Apologies. I just don't have a tissue to blow my nose. And this trend line is something that we've talked about many times before. And actually, this coming back down, the actual first test then might be 50k in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, because this is a strong trend line. I know we burst through it with relative ease on the way to the upside, but that's because we're in a bullish market right now. To come back down through this may take a couple of attempts, and so I'm I'm polarized to do something. I'm sat in this USDT that I got for the sale of the BTC because I do feel like I want to put it into alts, but it's just trying to find an opportunity to take advantage of that. And maybe it's just a case of BTC might fall because everything's going into alts, and actually I need to just stop messing around and actually start taking some action. But that's something that I'll have a look at. Now, let's clear some of these drawings off and go down into some degen timeframes for you. So we've done the 4 hour. If we do the 1 hour, I mean, this quite clearly lays out what we've experienced today, doesn't it? So, you know, we came up, yesterday might as well have been a bank holiday, sorry, a weekend, because it was a bank holiday. So we came into today and, you know, we were just sort of milling around, from 51.6 to about 52,000. Suddenly the markets, just prior to them opening, we see that sharp move up, immediately retraced into the markets opening, and for the UK to close. The UK then closes, I think it closes at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock, but, you know, round about that time. And then we see the reversal, and the US has now taken that all the way back up. But actually, we're kind of just taking it back to the range that we were in for the majority of the day. So we're just ranging in and around that period. And so it really has been a day for the market makers just to take advantage of those degens trading on the lower time frames. And, you know, this green vector candle was immediately recovered. Now, we didn't have a stopping vector candle here, unless it's not showing up because it's in brinks. But I do like that this came down to the 200 and then that strong bounce off that. But it's just put us back into this range. And, you know, we look, sort of, you know, these peaks here, these lines where we are. You know, it was such a strong turnaround off. This is the high of the week, this red line here, and to come back down and then catching off the 200 to come back up. It's just played very nicely there. So I'm just going to see what's in the chat. ETFs still hold 1-to-1. Their ETF are in BTC, may not buy mass buying. Any money in the ETFs means that they need to hold more BTC, which means higher market cap. Yep. Oh, let's hope it doesn't end up like paper gold. Yeah. Astro says 25th of March. So Mr. Tacos is a believer in the, well, that's not fair. I'm not saying he's a believer in the astrology charts, but he knows that people who play the charts are, and they're suggesting we might not be how it, the end of March. I assume that emoji is looking like scary. Is likely when we're going to see the bottom. And I've spoken with Mr. Tacos offline, and he's of the opinion that we actually may range for the rest of this month, but it's March that we may see is bloody. And, you know, when you take into account fear and greed, it just feels too easy at the moment. And I do think maybe one more leg up just to really capture some people, and then a correction. And I'm not talking about a massive correction, just something to, you know, just give us a bit of a bloody nose and remind us that, you know what, it's not always about making money. It's about losing it back to the markets as well. But yeah, we shall see where that one has to go. Jamie's put, might as well go and ask a medium. Well, or tarot card lady. I suppose gentlemen do it too. But yeah. Okay, let's have a look at some others. So let's have a look at Ethereum. I think Ethereum, you know, for me, has shown the strength. And this is it on the 1 hour chart. So we've had that climb up. We've been retesting against the EMAs. You know, I like that. But what's even better is we've hit the 50. We've had that huge surge up what we had before. We've come back down, retested on that 50, and then we have clean sprung back through it. And now we're retesting that $3,000 level. Ethereum does feel like this one will continue in an upward trend. It doesn't feel like it's ranging like BTC necessarily has. Now, obviously, if the king decides it wants to shit himself and bring everyone down, so be it. But I'm just taking Ethereum on its own merit at the moment. I do feel there is some strength for it to go up. But that 3,000 level is the all-important level that it needs to clear. We are getting towards closing time in the US, about, what, 20 minutes to go. So, you know, might have nothing happen for a few hours and then see what Asia does tomorrow. Let's have a look at Tau. So for me, Tau actually is a little bit different, and as exciting as it is about Tau, let's be realistic with Tau. Let's take on the higher time frame to start off with. Daily. I like it. You know, we've had the climb up, and we've seen this previously. It respects the 10 and the 20. So we've been respecting the 10, but it can't hold forever. We got too high. We pulled back and we lost it today. But what caused the 20? And we bounced back up it nice to see. I don't think we're necessarily out of the woods yet. And yes, I appreciate there is a low test there, but that's not all I go on at the moment, because when we go on the lower time frames, we are, for now, still in that downtrend. We actually now need to start clearing out some of these candles, these daily close candles that we've had. We need to start checking them off on the daily and closing on them, and then continuing upwards. And until I don't want to say we broke a market structure necessarily on the daily, because it's only 5 candles. But until we've now cleared that level, quite obviously 670 is the level that I'm looking at with a daily close, anything could necessarily happen. In terms of rises, if you want to buy into that, is there a W there potentially? Rise 1, pullback, rise 2, maybe a pullback for a rise 3. So we've got one more rise to go. The end of where that arrow is not indicative of where price might end up. Just to warn you. So maybe we are just on a bit of a pullback, and we haven't finished that yet. Just have to keep an eye necessarily on that. So get rid of that, and let us jump on some lower ones. The 4 hour, again, mid-afternoon, I was going to be talking about we've broken structure, we've lost the 50, and it looks like it's game over. But thankfully, this green vector candle totally recovered those previous vectors. We're now closed above 50 EMA, and this is looking better on the 50, I will say. Sorry, on the 4 hour. You know, we're coming back and respecting the 50. We've had that pullback to the 50. We're now above it. What I want to see in the next 2 hours and 18 minutes, ideally, is to clear the cloud, but certainly to close above 613 and 1 cents. Stay above that 50 level. I don't want to see it consolidate off that one. My help feeders within there. I don't think the hour is going to tell us too much different. Not necessarily. Anything else I'm sort of having an eye on doing well at the moment? Not really. I'm just looking at the time as well. Is there anything I really want to talk about? Is there anything anyone here wants me to talk about? Okay, thanks Cliff for tuning in. Taco's $50. He'll consult the Magic 8 Ball. Magic 8 Ball. Cheers, Harry. Got to shoot. No worries. Thanks, Stuart. Yes, I'm conscious we're now an hour 45 into it. Is there anything anyone really wants me to have a look at? I don't put my face cam back on. Let's go full view for you, just so you can see. There we go. So I will remember if anyone's got anything, but that's it, unless someone's got something they want me to have a look at. I will work on that chart. I have had a number of additional okay, Adam, I'll come to that in a second. I have had a number of additional requests to go on the portfolio tracker, which I'm updating, and when I do update that, I will refresh all of the prices, etc. And I'll tidy up that other sheet and have a look at it there. So let's have a look at some of these ones. What are your thoughts on BitTensor being on the Polkadot network in terms of benefits for DOT? So they're utilizing the Polkadot network in terms of how they're building it. In terms of benefit for DOT, I didn't even really know. So it's not like BitTensor are massively advertising Polkadot, and likewise Polkadot are not very good at advertising it themselves. Ultimately, as well as BitTensor has done, I don't feel like the masses know about it yet, which is good for us, don't get me wrong. And once we start to see the masses move in, when we start to see main exchange listings, hopefully we're going to get people talking about how it is a parachain, and we start to get that building in, that message out there, because it sure as shit feels like Polkadot ain't going to do it. Now, be fair to Polkadot, they got bigger fish to fry. Polkadot 2.0 launching, how they're sort of working the deflationary new tokenomics and everything else. And it's going to be honestly, I feel like it's going to be a very exciting time for Polkadot. Now, BitTensor is based on the old parachains. It's not going to be on the old core time. What will be interesting to see is what it does when its parachain ends. Does it stay with the core time model? Who knows? Does it go another way? We don't necessarily know at the moment, because neither are really talking about it that I've seen. It could be good, and I hope it is. And I hope, people start talking about this amazing AI crypto project that has been built off the back of Polkadot, and we start to see some real ingenuity with how they're utilizing the Polkadot chain to sort of like reach out and expand with others. But We just don't know yet. Simon introduced a Tau New swap, but it looks more expensive. What are your thoughts? I haven't commented on Tau New swap because I've not used it. And so I didn't talk about Tau New either, which I know people will be interested in. Tau New's been, I mean, this on the hourly. And if any of you looked on TradingView, you've seen like some days we've had like 20% pullbacks, but they always seem to be recovering at the moment. And this one's doing nicely, just creeping up the 50 EMA. We've had a bit of a ranging pattern at the moment. You know, I want to see it make that new high above 3 cents just to confirm that we are going up there. But I do feel like we will certainly be retesting that sort of like 2.9, 3 cents area. But yeah, I bought a bit of a joke bag way back, you know, at 0.0026. I got slipped a bit. So, and this turned out to be one of the best holdings I have. So I haven't bought any more. Maybe I will, but you know, I'm just gonna. It's a meme coin, as excited as we all are talking about going to $1. You know, I'm always nervous with memes. They can turn like that. Thanks, I really appreciate all for work. Are these lives available in RT for listening? Yep, all of them are available in RT. Matter of fact, if you don't want to wait because it's on YouTube, you can just fast forward, you can rewind all the way back and just watch it straight away. But the lives will come out. I got to like edit a bit of all the stuff of me not having my mic working and all that stuff, and then the video will be out by the time I've rendered it in the middle of the night, so it's always available first thing in the morning. Okay, right, I think we will call it then. Really appreciate everyone tuning in once again. It was longer than I thought it was going to be. Perhaps spent a bit too long talking about the spreadsheets, but hopefully you understand it a little bit better. When I tidy it up, hopefully you'll be able to utilize it for yourself to build those plans and build those out. But yeah, it's interesting how the top 100, moves. It's very organic, very fluid, particularly when you get past top 50 down. So yeah, who knows what it's going to look like in 18 months' time. Other than that, just want to say thanks again for tuning in. And if you've got any questions, hit me up on Discord or any other way. And other than that, I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.